Every year during the NBA draft, players and draft picks are traded to other teams. Sometimes these trades work out for their team, but however, there have been many historically terrible trades done due to unfulfilled potential or unexpected stardom. What's up guys, it's your boy NBA Dreams, and today I'm going to be looking at some of the worst trades done on draft day. The first trade we are going to look at is the Charlotte Hornish trade of Kobe Bryant, who they drafted 13th overall, to the Los Angeles Lakers for Vlade Divac. It's obvious to why this was a bad deal for the Hornets, as they gave up the closest thing to Michael Jordan. While Vlade Divac wasn't a bad player, matter of fact he was a really good player, as he had just came out of his best season with the Lakers, averaging 16 points and 10.4 rebounds, but he definitely was not no Kobe Bryant. Vlade Divac would only play 2 seasons with the Hornets, in which he averaged around 11 points and 8.5 rebounds per game. He would then leave and be a significant part of the Sacramento Kings team that would make a couple runs to the finals. Meanwhile, Kobe Bryant would spend his whole 20-year career with the Lakers, in which he would win 5 rings, win a Most Valuable Player award, and be an 18-time All-Star. I mean, I don't really have to explain how impressive Kobe's career was. This trade also affected the Charlotte franchise in the long run, as they had many bad seasons, including the worst season ever in NBA history in the 2012 season, when they finished with a 7-59 record. Damn. Now that's a really bad trade that affected the whole franchise in the long run. I'm sure that Kobe would not have let the Bobcats or the Hornets have only 7 wins for a whole season, regardless of who's on the team. The second trade we are going to look at had a huge effect in the history of basketball. In the 1987 draft, with the 5th pick, the Sonics drafted away Scottie Pippen to the Bulls for Olden Polynice and future draft pick considerations. Yes, they drafted away Michael Jordan's Robin, one of the best two-way players in NBA history, for a player that would only average 7.8 points and 6.7 rebounds in his 15-year career. While those numbers are serviceable numbers, they were nowhere near Scottie Pippen's Hall of Fame production. Some even say that without Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan would have less than 6 rings. So not only did this trade affect Pippen's career, but it could have also affected Jordan's legacy. Not only would Pippen end up being a 6-time champion, but he would also be a 7-time All-Star and listed in the top 50 greatest players of all time. If Pippen would have stayed in Seattle, imagine how good of a team the Sonics would have had with guys like Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp. I don't know about you, but the defensive duo of Gary Payton and Scottie Pippen sounds really dangerous. They would have even probably knocked out the Bulls in the finals. However, Pippen would be traded to the Bulls, and once he reached his potential in the 1991 season, the Bulls just seemed unbeatable. Pippen would end up being arguably the best wing defender of all time and one of the best sidekicks ever. The third terrible trade at draft day is the Milwaukee trade of the best international player ever, Dirk Nowitzki. In the 1998 draft, the Bucks drafted Dirk Nowitzki 9th overall, but then would trade him along with Pat Garrity to the Mavs for Robert Traylor. At that time, it sounded like a fair deal, because even with Dirk's potential, they were afraid that his game might not translate to the NBA. They believed he was too soft, too weak, and lacked athletic abilities to thrive in the NBA. They thought that he was a huge risk for the Bucks, and what made it worse is that he was an international player, because at that time, unlike nowadays, there were rarely any successful international NBA players. They saw the potential and skills, but weren't fully convinced. However, the Mavericks saw something about Dirk that not many teams saw. On the other hand, Traylor was considered one of the top big man prospects in the NBA, but his career never took off. He battled obesity throughout his whole career and passed away in 2011. He would only play 2 years with the Bucks and average only 4.8 points per game and 3.7 rebounds per game. Dirk, on the other hand, would end up being arguably the best international player the NBA has ever witnessed. He is also in the top ranks of all-time scoring leaders and an NBA champion. Once he hangs it up, Dirk Nowitzki is a sure Hall of Famer. Now imagine if the Bucks would have kept Dirk Nowitzki instead of trading him. Imagine the amount of shooting we would have witnessed with a trio of Ray Allen, Dirk, and Del Curry. Now that's the kind of shooting that could rival with the Warriors Splash Brothers. With Ray Allen and Dirk as their core, I'm sure that the Bucks would have been able to pull off a championship. The fourth trade is one of the most recent ones that many people may forget, which is the Indiana Pacers trading away the 15th pick and Kawhi Leonard to the Spurs for George Hill. Yes, Kawhi Leonard was not drafted by the Spurs. He was drafted by the Pacers, but they believed that George Hill would be a better player. At that time, many people were wondering who would replace the trio of Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Ginobili when they retired. While many people were wondering, the Spurs knew they had a star in their hands in Kawhi. Coming out of college, many scouts knew that he was going to be a good defensive player in the league, but not many expected his offensive game to explode the way that it did. The first thing to think about is how dangerous the Pacers would have been in the East with two of the best two-way players of their time in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I'm sure that would have been enough for the Pacers to beat LeBron James at least once in the East, and if Danny Granger would have stayed healthy, then that would just be a whole nother story. While Kawhi Leonard has developed into one of the best defenders in the NBA, George Hill has been pretty much a journeyman as he's played with 4 different teams in the last 7 years. George Hill would see his best year in the 2016 season with the Utah Jazz when he averaged 16.9 points with 4.2 assists and 3.4 rebounds. George Hill is a decent player as he's a good shooter and a good defender for somebody at his position, but he has not accomplished anything near to what Kawhi Leonard has accomplished in his short career. The crazy part is that Kawhi is still young and has many years ahead of him to develop. This deal completely altered Spurs history as no one was sure who would replace the Spurs trio when they retired. The final trade we are going to look at is at the 2008 draft when the Memphis Grizzlies traded away their 5th selection in Kevin Love for Minnesota's 3rd selection in OJ Mayo. At that time, that looked like a really good trade for the Grizzlies. Not only was OJ Mayo a higher draft pick, but out of high school and college he was the better player. He was even compared to LeBron James. He was considered more NBA ready than Kevin Love and formed a dynamic duo with Rudy Gay. Even though Kevin Love killed it in UCLA, many scouts were afraid that his game wouldn't translate into the NBA. At best, they thought that Love would be a role player that was a good rebounder and made a couple threes a game. However, as the NBA seasons went by, the tides turned. Kevin Love would end up being a superstar in Minnesota and a valuable part of the 2016 championship Cleveland Cavaliers. In one of his best years, he would average 26 points and 13 rebounds per game. He even averaged 15 rebounds for a whole year in the 2010 season. Meanwhile, OJ Mayo had a decent 4-year career in Memphis, but would decline every year. His best year came in his rookie year when he averaged 18.5 points per game. Mayo would get traded to Dallas and Milwaukee and take a huge downfall in his career as he ran into the law a couple of times. He would get banned from the NBA in the 2016 season and is not allowed to reinstate until the 2018-19 season. So compared to Kevin Love's all-star resume, OJ Mayo has been a huge disappointment. There have been other terrible draft day deals, such as the St. Louis Hawks trading away their number 2 pick in Bill Russell to the Boston Celtics, and the Cavs' accusation of Mark Price from the Mavericks for a 2nd round pick in the 1989 draft. But for today, we'll just discuss these 5 because they are more recent and relatable. So that's it for today, guys, and if you liked this video and would like to see more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.